I remember Pat saying something to the effect of, Mark, we need to do something more. They're literally calling for the vice president to be effing hung. And Mark had responded something to the effect of, you heard him, Pat. He thinks Mike deserves it. He doesn't think they're doing anything wrong.
More incriminating testimony there about Donald Trump thinking that assassinating the vice president was proper. Some of the most shocking testimony was not only the legal criminal evidence, which we've been walking through, but as we bring in Michael Steele, it is also a portrait of a Trump presidency so unhinged that it goes farther than so much of these supposedly shocking and terrible things we've already heard. Donald Trump basically completely out of control, physically, mentally, emotionally, throwing tantrums in the White House residence, like when he learned that his once loyal attorney general had publicly fact-checked his loss and referred to the fact that there was no major voter fraud.
There was ketchup dripping down the wall, and there's a shattered porcelain plate on the floor. The valet had articulated that the president was extremely angry at the Attorney General's AP interview and had thrown his lunch against the wall. There were several times throughout my tenure with the Chief of Staff that I was aware of him either throwing dishes or flipping the tablecloth.
Flipping the tablecloth. Amidst the attempt to overthrow the government, he's also overthrowing the table with this very deeply Trumpian testimony of ketchup dripping down the wall. We knew that there was a coup attempt. That much has been clear, and it's been referred to as a sloppy coup. Now we know just how sloppy it was. If it weren't such a serious news day, I might quote Aubrey Graham to say, you see how sticky it gets. I'm joined now by RNC Chair Michael Steele. It's too serious for me to do that, as you understand, so I won't. But the ketchup on the walls, it's like a cross between the final days of Nixon, The Shining, and then Donald Trump physically clashing with Secret Service agents, which is a combo that I don't know that we've ever seen documented in American history. Beyond the law, which we've now spent half the program on, I wanted your reaction to what it means to have such an unhinged president. Was that a national security concern? If this person returned to power, what would that mean with the control over the nukes and everything else?
Well, it's obvious if he returned to power, we're all screwed. I mean, beyond screwed at this point. I mean, because he will have around him people who will be much more protective of his self-interest and self-image, who will, without hesitation or any, independent thought, do what he wants them to do. So we won't even go there. That's just not even something that's worth musing about at this stage, because the evidence coming out is so damning. Yes, we've all understood Donald Trump to be unhinged on a number of levels for a number of time, for a while. Now, this is just further verification for a lot of that, Ari. Where I kind of tip, where the scale tips for me, is the Cipollones and the Mark Meadows, particularly Cipollone. No, we're not. Don't go up on the Hill that day. Right? Because we could get charged with all kinds of crimes. State of mind, baby. State of mind. I mean, so it's not everybody's focused on what's Trump's state of mind. Okay, that's important. But equally, if not more so, are the people around him who have been charged to do certain things, to carry out certain orders, even down to a Secret Service agent who's told to drive the car to the Hill because I'm the effing president. Yeah. And so I think what Ms. Hutchinson did today was to really give us a behind the curtains view of not just the mental state of the White House, but the actions and the sort of scrambling.
Yeah, Michael, let's bear down on what you're saying. The scrambling in that moment, as someone who has been up close and personal, you remind folks, you ran the Republican Party. You know a lot of these individuals in various moments. When you hear this new testimony that he was grabbing the wheel, physically clashing with the agent to get to the Capitol, is it your interpretation then that he wanted to get to the Capitol in that hour in that desperate intensity because he thought if he got there to join those armed insurrectionists, he might actually pull this off and stay in office?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's like, you know, General Washington or Napoleon or any great leader going to the head of the crowd, you know, the head of the army to sort of surge them over. And so for Trump, that mattered to him. But what, again, it goes back to that scrambling in the moment, trying, you know, wanting to go to the Willard Hotel and being told not to, the president wanting going to the Hill and being told not to. It begs the question. I'm curious now more about the conversations between Meadows, Cipollone, and McCarthy. I'm more interested in how those individuals communicated on that day. And now it's, you know, I understand why Kevin doesn't want to appear. I understand why Cipollone doesn't want to talk, because you now have a lot more to dig into with them about than they may be willing to talk. You thought Flynn was the king of the Fifth Amendment. I would bet these two would come with the Fifth Amendment tattooed on their forehead.
Right, along with, you know, a couple tattooed tears for democracy.
Yes.
Here's, again, Hutchinson on when they had to grab the arm and that whole exchange, which you were discussing. Take a listen.
Mr. Engel grabbed his arm, said, "Sir, you need to take your hand off the steering wheel. We're going back to the West Wing. We're not going to the Capitol." Mr. Trump then used his free hand to lunge towards Bobby Engel. And when Mr. Renato had recounted this story to me, he had motioned towards his clavicles.
Grabbing at the throat or the clavicle. Michael,
right.
Part of my job is just to ask the straightforward question so we don't lose the thread. If a non-president did this, if any other person, civilian or government employee in your experience did that, clashing with a senior Secret Service agent, what would happen to them?
It likely would have been arrested in the moment. In fact, if that occurred inside of the presidential vehicle, it would have stopped, which the video shows it did, because people need to keep when they leave, then it stops. That's the moment all of that's happening, right? And at that moment, anybody else would have been pulled out of the truck and arrested. But of course, it's the president, so that's not what happens here. It's a different circumstance, and the agents handled it as best they could under those circumstances. But that doesn't mean other authorities shouldn't look at that, and that there could be ramifications from that.
How could you not? I mean, just Michael, to let you finish, he talked about, he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue. You know?
Absolutely.
And again, I've made this point. While serving as president, the federal government has a position that it does not indict the chief of the federal government. That's a law school hypothetical problem you could deal with. He's not president anymore, and there's a question here about if you're above the law or not. If you combine what Cipollone said, I'll let you, finish us up. But Cipollone said multiple crimes. He has a physical clash with the agent. He is trying to admit armed people who we know then committed crimes against officers who are also on trial for seditious conspiracy. At what point do we stop talking about whether Donald Trump gets indicted for a crime and look at whether there's a multi-count indictment here based on, again, not one's opinions of the president, but the evidence of crime?
I think that's very much the space that we're about to walk into, with another piece to be delivered by the committee, as alluded to by Liz Cheney today, about witness tampering, trying to bring pressure on some of these witnesses.
And we have that coming up.
There's a lot here that the Justice Department can chew on, because it would be a meal for them if they were dealing with anybody else other than Donald Trump, than a former president. There would be no hesitation about the kind of case that would be lining up.
You lay it out, and look, Nixon wanted a pardon because he didn't think it was impossible to be charged. A lot of people around Trump wanted pardons. Added that list today, according to testimony. Mr. Steele, thank you.